The night sky, a tapestry of stars stretching across the cosmos. For millennia, humans have gazed upon this celestial canvas, pondering the mysteries it holds. Are we alone? A question whispered through the ages, stirring within us a sense of wonder and perhaps a hint of primal fear. Join me as we explore the testimonies of ordinary individuals who claim to have witnessed the extraordinary events so unsettling, so profoundly strange, that they challenge our very perception of reality. The Yorkshire Moors, a landscape sculpted by wind and time, a place where ancient stone walls snake through rolling hills. It's here, amidst this timeless scenery, that Phil Shepherdson, a man of science and reason, experienced the inexplicable. Phil, a research chemist by profession, found solace in the open road. An avid motorcyclist, he relished the freedom of his weekend rides, the wind in his face, the hum of the engine, a symphony of mechanical precision. But on one seemingly ordinary evening in 2017, the familiar comfort of his routine ride transformed into a terrifying journey into the unknown.
The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the moorland. I was enjoying the crisp night air, navigating a winding road that cut through a dense thicket of trees. It was then that I noticed it, a peculiar light, hovering silently above the tree line. At first I dismissed it as a trick of the fading light, a reflection perhaps, my scientific mind searching for a rational explanation. But as I drew closer, the light grew in intensity, pulsing with an otherworldly glow. It was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed. A shiver ran down my spine.
Phil slowed his bike, a sense of unease settling over him. The light, now a brilliant orb, began to descend, its descent slow and deliberate, as if observing him, studying him. Fear, raw and primal, gripped him. His instincts screamed at him to flee, to put as much distance between himself and the strange light as possible. But a strange compulsion, a morbid curiosity, rooted him to the spot.
The light, now directly in front of me, pulsed once, twice, then with a suddenness that stole my breath, it shot upwards, vanishing into the night sky. I sat there, engine idling, heart pounding in my chest, the silence of the moors suddenly deafening. My initial shock gave way to a confusion of emotions, fear, disbelief, and an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. The world as I knew it had been irrevocably altered.
The rational, scientific framework Phil had built his life upon crumbled in the face of this inexplicable encounter. He continued his journey home, his mind racing, replaying the event over and over, searching for a logical explanation. But there was none. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of something unknown having crossed his path, leaving an indelible mark on his psyche. The encounter on the moors fundamentally changed Phil. The man who once scoffed at tales of the unexplained found himself questioning everything he thought he knew. Our next journey takes us to the skies above the sprawling suburbs of Chicago, where Colin Saunders, a seasoned aeronautical engineer, had an encounter that defied his years of training and his deeply ingrained skepticism. Colin, a man who dedicated his life to the intricacies of flight, believed in the tangible, the measurable. His world was one of blueprints, thrust ratios, and the unwavering laws of physics. Yet on March 31, 1999, the impossible soared into his life, forever altering his perception of the skies he held so dear.
It was a typical Tuesday evening. My family and I were returning home from a dinner. As we cruised down a quiet residential street, my son, Ethan, pointed excitedly towards the sky. "Look, Dad, a shooting star." I glanced up, expecting to see a fleeting streak of light, a common meteor burning up in the Earth's atmosphere. But what I saw instead stopped my breath in my chest. It wasn't a shooting star. It was an immense, triangular craft hovering silently above the rooftops, its underside studded with pulsating lights that bathed the neighborhood in an eerie, otherworldly glow.
Time seemed to distort, stretching into an impossible moment. Cars screeched to a halt, their drivers and passengers alike mesmerized by the spectacle unfolding above them. Colin's wife gasped, clutching his arm, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and terror. The sheer size of the craft was staggering. It dwarfed the houses below, its smooth metallic surface reflecting the streetlights in distorted patterns. Colin, a man who could identify any aircraft by its silhouette alone, found himself completely at a loss. This was like nothing he had ever seen, nothing he could even begin to comprehend.
Inside the car, a cacophony of questions erupted from the back seat. "What is that, Dad? Is it a spaceship?" Ethan asked, his voice a mixture of excitement and fear. I could only shake my head, my mind struggling to reconcile the impossible sight before me with my years of scientific training. For what felt like an eternity, the massive craft hung suspended in the air, its presence both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. Then, as abruptly as it had appeared, the craft began to move, gliding silently across the sky, its lights dimming until it vanished into the night.
The silence that followed was deafening. Neighbors emerged from their homes, their faces etched with a mix of wonder and apprehension. Colin, still reeling from the encounter, could only stare at the space where the craft had been, his mind a whirlwind of questions. What had he witnessed? A hallucination? A collective delusion? Or had he, a man of logic and reason, been given a glimpse into a reality beyond human understanding? Chapter 3. The Cottage in the Valley. Our final story takes us to the rolling hills of Wales, where a family seeking tranquility in the countryside stumbled into a terrifying mystery.
My husband Daniel, a graphic designer, and I, a freelance writer, along with our 2 young daughters, rented a charming cottage nestled in the picturesque Ceiriog Valley.
What began as an idyllic escape from the hustle and bustle of city life quickly descended into a nightmare that would haunt them for years to come. The cottage, with its ivy-covered stone walls and crackling fireplace, seemed like the perfect retreat.
Surrounded by verdant fields and the gentle murmur of the river Ceiriog, we felt a million miles away from our hectic London lives.
But as the days turned into nights, a palpable sense of unease began to settle over the cottage, a feeling that they were not alone. It started subtly, objects misplaced, doors creaking open in the dead of night, whispers carried on the wind that seemed to cease the moment they turned their heads.
I initially dismissed these occurrences as tricks of the imagination, the creaky nature of an old house playing on our nerves. But as the incidents escalated, so too did our unease.
One evening, while the girls slept soundly upstairs, Sasha and Daniel were startled by a piercing shriek coming from the garden. Grabbing a flashlight, Daniel cautiously made his way outside, Sasha close behind, her heart pounding in her chest.
The beam of the flashlight danced across the lawn, revealing nothing but the rustling leaves of the ancient oak tree that stood sentinel over the property. Just as we were about to dismiss it as a fox or badger, our blood ran cold.
2 glowing orbs, hovering just above the ground, materialized in the darkness beyond the oak tree. They pulsed with an eerie, otherworldly light, casting long, distorted shadows that danced menacingly across the lawn.
Paralyzed with fear, we could only watch as the orbs slowly drifted towards the cottage, their light seeming to pulsate in sync with our racing heartbeats.
Terror, raw and primal, gripped them. They fumbled for the back door, their every instinct screaming at them to escape the chilling presence that had invaded their sanctuary.
Safely inside, we bolted the door, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. We huddled together in the darkness, listening intently for any sound from outside. The only sounds that reached us were the frantic thumping of our hearts and the mournful sigh of the wind whistling through the eaves.
The night passed in a blur of terror and whispered reassurances. Dawn painted the sky in hues of rose and gold, but it did nothing to dispel the horror of the previous night. The family packed their belongings with a frantic urgency, their idyllic retreat transformed into a place of fear and dread. 3 stories. 3 lives forever touched by the inexplicable. Are these simply tall tales, products of overactive imaginations, or do they point to a truth far stranger than we can comprehend? Are we, as a species, truly ready to confront the possibility that we are not alone in the vastness of the cosmos?
The universe is 13 billion years old. To think we're the only ones? Statistically, it's naive. But if they're here, what do they want?
Until we have answers, stories like these will haunt us, because the truth is still out there.